are the stars of the portal this year, the transfer portal? And the top 5 leaders in the transfer portal, shocker, were all quarterbacks. So here's who they were, John. You've got Nico, Iamaleava, the kid from Tennessee who's going to UCLA, right? He ended up getting himself into a bit of a bind on the numbers because the numbers sure don't add up. But nonetheless, it's interesting. He's number 5. Number 4 is Fernando Mendoza. You know where he's from? Cal Berkeley. And he left Cal to go to Indiana. Well, that's an interesting one, but he's number 4. Number 3 is Darian Mansa, who went from Tulane, your Tulane, to Duke. 2 pretty good academic schools, by the way, so I give the kid a lot of props. Carson Beck decided to go from Georgia to Miami for about $4 million a year. But the number 1 guy is John Maynard from Washington State, who went to Oklahoma. This kid lit it up last year at Washington State. I don't even know what that conference is considered anymore, John, because is it still the Pac-2 or what is it? I mean, it's Oregon State and Washington State, right? And they're talking about all these deals. Maybe they work with the Mountain West or whatever. I don't really know, but it's interesting to say the very least about that. But it shows you that in the portal, or just like we were talking about a couple of days ago, John, we were on our sports when we said, hey, if you're Pittsburgh, why don't you have a quarterback? Why do you have 4 guys that nobody's really ever heard of? Nobody's really had the opportunity to watch them play. Why aren't you deciding either drafting somebody or signing Aaron Rodgers, or maybe even go down to Atlanta and start knocking on the door of Kirk Cousins and say, hey, what can we do? But it's interesting to me. So the top 5 guys, of course, they're quarterbacks. They're always quarterbacks. What do you think? Is that the right way? Is it too much that we put so much on the quarterbacks, John?
No, it's not. But obviously, I'm going to dig a little deeper into that Cal quarterback, Pete, because he was all set to be going to Yale. So in other words, this kid's pretty damn smart. And Cal, of course, I'd say is easily on a par with that. But instead of going to Yale and playing against Ivy League competition, he decides to go to Cal. And he had a very good year. He threw for 3,000 yards, Pete.
Not bad.
As a redshirt sophomore now. That's pretty amazing. So the kid's 6'5". He's 225. He's got a slingshot for an arm. Mm-hmm. And now he transfers, like you said, he's transferred over to Indiana, Pete. Yeah. So that Indiana coach, I think, surprised a lot of people last year with how good Indiana got that quickly. And now you get this guy in there. So they had Penix and then they lost Penix, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now they got this guy, Fernando Mendoza. Remember that name, guys, because that kid is special.
He's going to be a good one. And last year they had a great quarterback as well, John. I mean, they just nabbed him up, and all of a sudden Indiana was a real football team. I mean, very competitive, not just a team out there. But all right, last thing I wanted to hit real quick with you, John, was the NBA. So we finally got to the conference finals. This is where it actually kind of matters, right? You've got OKC at Oklahoma City going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think what's really interesting about this one, ESPN had a piece on this one. They were talking about, is Anthony Edwards, John, the face of the NBA? I'm going to say yes.
Should be.
And the reason I'm saying that is, should it be LeBron? Probably not. Should it even be Steph Curry, who's a great player? We all know that. He's been a great player forever. The guy can shoot the lights out anywhere. But, you combine the ages of those 2 guys, and I think the number is 79, something close to that. So these guys are the old hat. They've done it, but maybe they're done doing it. And I think Anthony Edwards, 23-year-old Anthony Edwards, is the guy that you'd want to have as your face of the next 10, 15 years for sure. So, and the other great thing about him, John, is I think when you look at Anthony Edwards and the fact that he doesn't allow any sort of load management, matter of fact, the guy begs to get back out on the floor and all the rest of that, I think that ingratiates himself. People in the fans here in Minnesota love him, and I think they love him for all the right reasons. He wants to win. He's also electric. He also distributes the ball around. And the other thing that really I found fascinating, John, and I'll ask you if you've ever seen anything like this before, but usually when somebody trades a player with another player, somebody wins, somebody loses, right? Well, Big Cat, Karl Anthony Towns went to the New York Knicks, and he's had an unbelievable year, and it's been phenomenal. Well, we ended up getting, when I say we, Minnesota, Julius Randle, who's had a phenomenal year, but he's really had a phenomenal playoff run too. And this guy is absolutely on fire. That was basically the trade. And Cat wanted to get a lot more money, right? And we loved him here in Minnesota, but how do you pay him and the rest of the guys and all the rest of it? You just can't. So they let him go, and he went to the Knicks. Now they've got Julius Randle. And I'll tell you what, even though the odds are against the Timberwolves getting out of this one and into the finals, don't hold your breath, because I think that there's a shot that we have a shot to maybe take this thing and get to the finals, because that's how good, with Rudy Gobert and all the different players that are on there with the Timberwolves, with Anthony Edwards. I'll tell you what, John, it's turned into a real juggernaut, and almost everybody, Rudy's older, but almost everybody else, pretty damn young basketball team that could be great in the future.
Well, and Pete, like you said, Rudy Gobert, you were telling me about him long before anybody else was.
Mm-hmm.
And that kid is indeed one of those guys, a difference maker on that team.
Yep.
So, and Shaq just can't get enough, by the way, of your guy Ant.
Yeah.
He just loves him. So that's the kind of player Shaq was, and that's the kind of player he likes. A guy that doesn't come off the floor and just leaves it all out there. So I think that's a special player.
And it's unfair that we always, including myself, compare him to the greatest of all time, right? I mean, but when you watch him play, John, if you get a chance to watch any of these NBA games and you watch Anthony play, the guy is absolutely amazing. And he does so many things like Jordan, where he's flying through the air, but it's almost like he's still held up in the air when he's up there, and he's moving the ball around in his arm and all that kind of stuff. Physically, he's a lot like him. He approaches the game very similarly. Obviously, it's a good person to try to emulate when you're going out on the floor. I think Michael Jordan would be a smart move. But he is a special player, and I've been watching him and had the luck to watch him for a lot of years. He's really impressive. He's been in the NBA now for a few years.
Well, we're getting off at West Palm Beach, Pete, so I got to say goodbye to everybody.